Welcome to Here's Something Good on Women's Health and Longevity. We are so grateful to our partner Tampax that can be found at Walgreens, the women's well-being destination, supporting every stage. Together, we're bringing you something good each week on women's health, and it wouldn't be possible without their support. Today, we're talking to Dr. Charis Chambers about what every young woman should know about menstruation. Dr. Chambers is an OBGYN with fellowship training in pediatric and adolescent gynecology. She's also the founder of the Period Doctor platform that seeks to educate young women on topics related to reproductive health. And she's also the author of the upcoming book, The Period and Puberty Parenting Revolution, which is coming out next year, which we can't wait for. Welcome, Dr. Chambers.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Today, we're talking about menstrual health, a topic that is often overlooked. How has our scientific understanding evolved in recent years? And what do we know today that we didn't teach girls and young women a generation ago?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I love that science is starting to understand the value of understanding your menstrual health. In recent years, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists actually put out a kind of directive to physicians that we need to be treating menstruation like a vital sign. The idea was that the presence of normal menstruation could give us a ton of information about the baseline health of our patient. And so if we're treating it like a vital sign, we're going to be evaluating it on a regular basis. We don't have almost any encounter with a patient without getting our vital signs because they're vital to our understanding. And so we have learned that even just understanding menstruation, even if the patient doesn't have a complaint, is vital to that as well. Now, on the matter of generations and how that knowledge has shifted throughout generations, we're not doing the best job of teaching our daughters and folks coming after us about our periods because the generation before could only teach what they know. And so what we see in this new generation is that they are not nearly as uncomfortable discussing menstruation, but when they bring it up with their parents and people that are older, they actually see that hesitation. And so that's an interesting thing that's been shown in research where this generation, things aren't as taboo. They talk about everything online, things we wish they didn't talk about, but we haven't quite gotten to that point. And so there kind of needs to be a melding of generational strengths. If we could kind of take the knowledge that we may have gained over time and actually share it with our kids that are more open, I think that would be amazing.
That's such a great point. And I really hadn't thought of it that way, but it's so true, right? The next generation is so open and interested, and they want to learn, and they want to do things the right way. So I guess this really should be aimed at our generation, maybe equipping us with the right way to talk about these issues.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, as you mentioned, in the past, it's been somewhat taboo, but menstrual education is really key.
Yes.
So tell us why understanding menstruation and menstrual products is so important for young women's health, for their physical and mental well-being, and even for their sense of freedom.
Yeah, so menstruation is going to happen. It is an inevitability. And so a lot of the hesitation around teaching about menstruation and about menstrual products is because of the inappropriate hypersexualization and even politicalization of the topic, right? When we think about all of the things that make periods and menstruation taboo, they are not brought on by the younger kids. They're not brought on by our kids or our teens. It's typically the projection of adults that makes it that uncomfortable topic, right? So if we remove that aspect of sexuality and pregnancy and all of these fears that we carry because we want our kids to be super small and innocent forever, and we say this is an inevitability of life, and my job is not to keep this child a child forever, but to raise a functional and happy and fulfilled adult, then teaching them about their body and how to manage it is perfectly aligned with that. So we don't need to separate and put it in this different category, a category that's scary and all of those things. That's not appropriate. Bring it back to the center. And once we do, we're centering health and well-being. And we know that girls and menstruators who know more about their bodies and are able to have open conversations with trusted adults, they have higher self-esteem and higher self-efficacy, meaning they believe that they can do what they want to do. And that is the type of children we want to be raising.
It gives them a sense of freedom, right? Like
Yes.
confidence,
Yes.
body positivity, and frankly, all the things that we wish we could instill in young girls and even in our own generation.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're trying to educate both young women and our own generation, hopefully through this podcast, let's really break it down for the audience. from a physiological perspective, what's going on? How should we be using menstrual products? For example, how do tampons work? Obviously, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions around all this. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in the body and what's true and what's myth.
I find, especially in my practice, that my patients come in and they have these ideas around menstrual products and all these rules that just do not apply. And I constantly tell them menstrual products are just that, menstrual products. You get to use what works best for you. You don't have to use what your favorite celebrity uses, what your mom uses, or what your friend uses. You need to use what makes you comfortable, what works well for you. And then we separate the menstrual products in their categories. I like to say we've got our absorbers and our collectors, right? We've got things that absorb menstrual blood or things that just kind of hold menstrual blood. The holders of menstrual blood are going to be our menstrual cups and our menstrual discs, right? The ones that absorb are going to be our tampons, our pads, our period underwear, our panty liners. And so it's a matter of how do you want to manage your menstruation. When we start to think about taboos and hesitations, it's typically those products that are inserted, especially tampons. And tampons kind of get a bit of a bad rap because there is that connection, an appropriate somewhat connection to toxic shock syndrome. But I always tell people tampons do not cause toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome is caused by a bacteria. What we know is that inappropriate tampon use increases your risk of toxic shock syndrome. So really what we have right now are really much improved guidelines on how we use those products. The general teaching is we're not going to wear a tampon longer than 6 to 8 hours. If you can, kind of go back and forth between tampons and pads, that also decreases your toxic shock risk. And you always want to use the lowest tampon that fits your flow. And so if you wear a tampon for 6 hours and take it out and it has like a little drop of blood, you could have gone down as it relates to absorbency. You want to make sure you're always going down until you get one that fits your flow. What I reassure my patients, even their parents, with is that tampons are safe to use. All of the menstrual products that are available for use in the United States are safe to use. And so it's about finding one that fits your comfort, that gives you the freedom you desire, and gives you the protection you need.
So, how do we better educate caregivers about menstrual health and really help them better understand how to talk to young women and girls?
I like to think that it would be enough to say, talk to your child like you want someone to talk to you. I think that's good guidance,
Mhm.
but your child is still a unique person. And so you need to talk to your child how your child wants to be spoken to, right? And the reason parents are uniquely positioned to be able to do that because they know their children's desires. They know them better than anyone else. The other way we can encourage parents to really show up is by not assuming they know everything. If they were never taught, the idea of having to teach someone else can be
Yeah.
very daunting. Like, it
Yeah,
can
that's
be
a safe assumption.
terrifying. Right.
Yeah.
So, what I try to do is I don't assume that adults or parents know anything. I say, "You know what? Just for the sake of understanding, I'm gonna talk with both of you in the room. Let's just talk through the menstrual products. Sorry if I insult your intelligence. Let's walk through it." And I cover everything with both of them because that gives a level playing field. And then that mom or that dad or whoever is able to go home with that agency and information and be able to really support that child. If you only educate the child in silo, they go home to then be potentially butting heads with an adult that doesn't understand, that doesn't get it, and may have some fears that haven't been addressed. My personal history is my very first period, I actually used a tampon. I started during the summer, and my whole family was going to the pool. And I called my mom into the bathroom because I saw blood. She told me to tell her if I see blood. And so I was being obedient. I was like, "Hey, it's here." She's like, "Oh my goodness, you've started your period." Um, and then I said, "Okay, but we're going swimming today." She kind of sighed and she was like, "Okay." She came back with the tampon. She said, "If you want to go swimming, you need to wear this." So she showed me how to use it. I used it, had a great day. I had no idea about the taboos or anything because my mom said it was okay. Like, my trusted adult, the person that knows me more than anything, knows that I would rather die than miss a swim day, right? She was like, "I know you care about this enough, and I know my daughter, and I know that you're capable of doing this, so I'm going to show you so that you can have the day that I know you want." So that's what parents can do by stepping out of their comfort zone and using all the resources we have available to learn things that maybe we were not taught, to have more compassion and understanding and flexibility that maybe our parents didn't have with us, just to meet our kids where they are. That teaches your child that you are their safe space, that you are their advocate, and then that teaches them to come to you when things continue to change, when life continues to get more complex and confusing. That's what adolescence is. It is a time of testing, but it is a time where they need you actually more than ever. It's a measured independence where they come back to you and say, this is what happens. This is how it made me feel. That cannot happen if there isn't a strong and trusted relationship. If you panic, if you freak out, if you prove to them and show to them that you are not capable because of whatever you're dealing with to meet them where they are, they will stop going to you when they need you and when they need someone, and they'll look elsewhere. And my mandate to parents is don't make your child have to look elsewhere. There's a lot of scary things out there. Make it so that they come to you and come to you first.
Wow. Well, I am so happy that you do what you do and so excited that you have a book coming out. Obviously, the world needs it. It's called The Period and Puberty Parenting Revolution. Tell us what it's about and why did you feel it was necessary to write this at this time?
So, I mean, it actually goes along with what we've been discussing so well. I was seeing patients in my office over and over again and realizing that a lot of the myths and misconceptions and concerns they had needed to be addressed in a cross-generational approach, right? I could talk with that kid, but I really needed to get to that parent. And oftentimes, when I got to that parent, even if for a moment, I realized there was much more that I needed to address, and I often didn't have the time or the space to do so. And there were times where I was looking, I was like, man, I wish this parent could just know how powerful they are, how powerful they are. I wish they could just know how important their word choices are. I wish they could know how their actions and words and responses are affecting their child. And I said, well, let me write a book about it. But let me write a book that isn't attacking the parents and saying, oh, you're failing, you're messing up, but saying, hey, you are perfectly positioned to be this person. I know you can do it, and here are the tools. This is what you need to make this possible. So what my book offers is medical accuracy, but also with compassion. It says, hey, maybe you didn't have this. Maybe there's some hurt there, and it's okay. I hold space for that. But let me tell you that you can't opt out of showing up for your child. So let's work through that, and then let's get this medical accuracy and then walk through it together. So you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to be an expert, but you do have to show up, and these are the tools to do so. And so my hope is that parents will read this book, dads, moms, or anyone who cares for some small person with a period, and feel more empowered to show up and advocate for them. Because to me, understanding reproductive health and really having that agency is a cornerstone to liberation. That is how you are free in this world. That's how you have a fulfilled life. And I want every single child with a period to have that.
Wow. Well, we are so excited for your book to come out. It's really so important to have these conversations, and the information you're providing really could change the trajectory of girls and young women's lives. So
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
so
joining
much.
us, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Of course, this was a joy and my pleasure.
Here are the top takeaways. First, open conversations build confidence. Young people today are more willing to talk about periods, but some parents and caregivers may shy away from the topic. Honest, informed conversations between generations can boost self-esteem in girls and young women and foster a sense of freedom. Second, menstrual products should be a personal choice based on accurate information. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. Whether it's tampons, pads, or other products, the best product is often the one that feels most comfortable and works best for you. And remember, safety lies in proper use. Lastly, education creates freedom. Understanding your body, including how to manage your period, frees you to fully participate in life. Whether it's going to the pool or showing up at school, menstrual education supports autonomy and opportunity. Thank you for listening, and please share today's episode with others in your life. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.